let's just keep. All right, we've covered gore, we've covered boogers, pimples. What's next? We did diarrhea. All right, we just tried to cover as many of the grossest topics we could. And
the secretion is funny. Just, you know what I mean?
Secretion is funny. Very true. Very true. Yeah, man. I guess let's. You want to jump into it?
We can get right in. Yeah, sure.
All right, ladies and gents, welcome back to Articulate. This week, we've got Paige Campbell back on the pod after... Thanks for coming back, dude. I feel like this is well-deserved after our last session got kind of... it was really good, but the recording got all messed up, and I didn't get the best recording for you, so I'm sorry about that. I'm glad to have you back on.
That's all right. That's before you had the studio, right?
The studio,
yeah. This wasn't even the setup.
Right.
We were in your damn bedroom.
This is a new podcast. Yeah.
Like a casting couch last time.
It was a casting couch situation last time. But this time, we're here to talk about pro wrestling.
Yes, dude.
I'm pumped. Pro wrestling is sick, dude.
That's one of my favorite fucking things ever.
Honestly,
you can't be a comedian without autistic hyperfixation. And wrestling is like, dude, it's gotten me through.
Yeah.
For sure. Oh yeah, just like being just obsessed with it. Like,
really?
It's weekly TV, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like it's a constant. If you're into it, it's always there. You can always check in, see what the boys are up to.
See what the boys is going on. Yeah, and I'm hoping you can fill me in a lot more because I know nothing about pro wrestling, right? I think it's cool. I played the GameCube games back in the day.
Fuck
did the 619 with Rey Mysterio. You know,
Yes.
he was my guy.
Yeah, of course.
But besides that, I really don't know anything else about it. I did some research on it, you know, through like when it started and kind of, you know, to where it is now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, we can talk through it. I mean, you mentioned Rey Mysterio already, so like, I mean, I know a good amount, but like, I'm interested to know
like the history.
Well, I'm saying I'm interested to know your rundown.
My rundown?
Yeah, what do you know?
Yeah, okay, and we can go off on tangents through this thing, but you know, starting off with the Greeks, the ancient Greeks.
Yeah.
You want to go back, that's when they were doing it naked and to the death, which I think would be good TV today, but...
Oh, yeah, I always say they should bring back, like, the Coliseum. You know what I mean? I want to see Christians as the Lions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Definitely, yeah.
And especially, like, I guess they're always worried about, like, executing the wrong people, but it's like, why can't people on death row... What is this no cruel and unusual punishment thing?
Yeah, they're on death row for a reason. Yeah.
You're telling me we can't make pedophiles fight lions?
Damn.
That doesn't sit right with me.
Yeah. Damn. Yeah, we should do that, dude.
Yeah. Anyway.
Nah.
Who's a bigger heel than a pedophile?
Yeah, that would be fun. I can't like dispute that watching an evil person, even let's say convicted pedophiles, right? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
It's like regular
not just a guy you
pedophiles we
point your finger at. That guy's a fucking pedophile.
You wouldn't put Hitler in a coliseum against a lion, dude. Come on. We're putting all the Hitlers of the world.
That's right, yeah. All the Hitlers. All right, we're getting off track.
Yeah, no, you're right. I'm just thinking a lot about this. This is like, I didn't even consider the Coliseum. I do miss those things.
Yeah, well, so like, if you're talking about the history, I just, it's like we talked about on the Metal Pod. It's like, it's hard to figure out where to start exactly.
Yeah.
You know? Because I even meant more base. Like Rey Mysterio, who are stars that you know? Like, what do you know about wrestling as it is today?
True. So, again, I really don't know anything beyond, like, I had, like, a small phase with the GameCube. It wasn't even my GameCube game. It was like I would go over to a buddy's house, we would smoke weed and play an old GameCube game with Rey Mysterio. I don't know any of the others' names. I know, like, of course, you know, Stone Cold Steve Austin and Randy Savage.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Thing. So I know a little bit.
Yeah, you don't know nothing.
I don't know nothing. I know that in 1848 is really when it became a performance art because carnies, dude, apparently carnivals, like that's really where like the big performance aspect and you know, that's kind of the Coliseum type of setting that people were looking for.
Yeah. No, you're 100% right. Like its origins of it like as a show was like in the like old carnival days, like they started doing it. Yeah. And so like wrestling's interesting because like everyone's issue with it, anyone who's not into it, it seems like their problem with it is that it's fake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I get that, but it's like to me, it's just all that you like the way you look at it.
Right.
So it's not. It's an athletic performance. It's not a sport. You know what I mean? Anyone trying to argue that it's a sport, it is dumb. But it's like it's two men or women working together to create an amazing show.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like I love that it's like serialized. It's like a real life comic book. You know what I mean? You watch week to week. they reveal new bits of information about the storyline, the feud every week, and then it builds like one big crescendo where they have like a crazy blow off match. It's great shit.
No shit. That's I mean we're kind of skipping down. Honestly, all of this is just kind of iffy stuff. But that's when they started. So around like the 1940s is really when they started playing into like the aesthetics for TV, because that's when it started getting aired. So they had these people called El Santo and Blue Demon. They had them like fighting like mafia zombies, dude. They had them like, dude, that's when they really started almost like superheroes, you know? Like storytelling with, you know, and really getting people into it that way, which is sick.
100%, yeah. So I mean, like, that's what the other like cool thing that's like, to me, like, what's super cool about wrestling is there's so many different styles, and it happens all over the world. Like you mentioned, Blue Demon and Santos. Those are huge Mexican stars back in the day.
Oh, so you do know those names?
Oh yeah. Mexico, like wrestling is huge in Mexico, and like that's what's so cool. It's like there's so many different styles. You can watch like violent, like deathmatch shit if you want. You can watch like technical good shit. You can watch some Mexican shit. It's lucha. You know what I mean? Like the Japanese stuff is really like
so Japanese stuff came up a lot too.
It's huge in Japan. Huge.
Okay, so you do know a lot about like the history of it. And too. Okay, so how far back do you know about?
So it's like when you get to the old stuff, I don't know like really specific dates exactly when it happened. I from what I've heard, it's like what you're saying, like 40s is like kind of when it started like taking off.
Right.
What's interesting about it being quote unquote fake is it's a show, right? The origin for like back like when they decided to start fixing it was in the carnival days. They used to have like just the top wrestlers in the world, like just wrestle, and it would go for 3-4 hours, and it just was like too long, and audiences would get exhausted and like leave because they were just legit the best grapplers in the world.
Oh shit!
And
really?
instead of so they figured rather than putting like rule systems and like time limits, they're like, what if we could control the whole thing? Oh, shit. What if we can make this guy a fucking asshole? We can make this guy the most popular good guy in the world, and we can decide who wins and loses. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So there were like natural stories when they put these people there. I mean, if you have people together for 3 hours, you know, there's going to be tensions involved, and like there are going to be some drama and everything like that. But it wasn't you know how like with stand up with a joke is like you could tell a funny story, right? Yeah. But if you cut it down to like really what's funny about it, then that makes it that much more entertaining. And
No, and I mean if you get like invested in like whatever like promotion you want to get into, like I think what a lot of people don't realize about it is like how like every like piece of it is storytelling. You know what I mean? Like people don't realize, like people do think it's just like silly like matches and shit, and it's like if you like watch the promos, like watch it week to week, and then watch like the pay-per-view, it's like every little thing they do in a match has like purpose. Like every like thing they're saying, it's like it has purpose. Like not always, I would say, you know, it's like anything. There's shitty wrestling, there's good wrestling, but like when they do it right, it's like it's some of the best storytelling you can see, I think. Like,
damn, that's sick. Yeah, again, as all these things, like I'm not too involved from afar. It just seems like a bunch of like cheesy men just like yelling at each other just to like create some fun drama and kissing each other's girlfriends or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean it's not that.
It's like, not that.
the base storyline's just being like, hey, you stole my girl. You know what I mean? Or it's like I want that belt. Like all that is silly, but it's like.
But it's like you were saying with like comic books or something is like you're creating first of all like the context for a character. Yeah, they're like arc a little bit, and 100%. Then like developing one or two people as like the strongest of the strongest, and then eventually pitting them together. It's like what Marvel's doing all the time.
Exactly right. I mean like building someone as like unbeatable, or it's like building like they'll even do it like more specific where it's like no one's ever kicked out of his finisher. Like no one can fucking kick out of his goddamn finisher. And then it's like you build that up for a year and then someone kicks out of it and it's like, oh my fucking God. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, like no one can kick out of that shit.
Yeah, definitely. So it started like you were saying, kind of going back. I know you don't know the exact dates and everything, but at some point, I guess in TV, so what were like the first bigger characters to emerge? Let's say in like American culture around that you know names of.
Yeah, that's a good question. So I know like. Again, the dates might not be right, but like 50s, 60s when it started to get like some television like exposure and shit. Like Bruno Sammartino was like a big guy. He held the fucking WWWF title.
Yeah, the WWF title. I didn't even know that's what it was. It wasn't even WWE until like the 2000s.
Yeah, well, and before, so like Vince's dad started, Vince McMahon, of course.
Right.
Vince Senior.
Yeah, I have Vince Senior was he was 60s and 70s.
Yeah, it was the WWWF. It wasn't even the WWF.
Yeah, that's when they had Andre the Giant too.
Oh yeah, Andre the Giant, huge star.
Yeah.
So it's like it started at the carnival level. They made it a show, and it did start to be on TV. But like these big stars, it's weird how the wrestling industry has changed. Because before there was national television, they had what they called the territories, at least in America.
Interesting.
So in America, it was like basically the way people would do their careers.
Yeah.
Is each like section of the country had a territory. It was a territory. So you had like the North, it's like North Carolina, South Carolina.
Yeah.
You had like the West Coast, like
yeah, you said there's the North, so like North Carolina, South Carolina.
I'm just giving some examples.
Yeah, no, I got you. I know what you mean. But it was regional first.
It was regional, and like people basically, rather than it being a traveling attraction show, it was popular in every town.
Oh, okay.
Now, I mean, it's
kind of like the nomads learning to plant seeds.
I mean, you're going back to times where people thought it was real too, because that's what's weird about wrestling too. Before the internet, people legit thought it was real, which is insane.
Yeah, that is crazy. Like you see somebody get their face smacked with a chair, you're like, holy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. You're watching. Well, it basically is like the draw of the Coliseum. It's like you're watching people get hurt like that.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Oh yeah, and I mean, like they didn't give a shit about safety back then. Like it's always been a show, but like you watch like old wrestling, and it's like they're cracking chairs over each other's like heads, and it's like Jesus, dude. Like
yeah. That's what there's waves with like how popular it is and how unpopular. And then like one of the times, like I think early '90s is when it kind of receded a little bit because there were a lot of like sex scandals and like liabilities and
100%
things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always been shit that they've
safety
battled because it's people just destroying their bodies. So it's like, of course, they get into painkillers and whatever,
Yeah, true.
But so these like before national television was like a big thing, it was on TV in whatever territory you were in, whatever like region.
Yeah.
And these dudes would like just work a territory. Like if you were a great heel, you'd work there for 5-6 years. The crowd would start to get tired of you. You just go to another territory, and you would just travel around and fucking like work each territory for 5 to 10 years.
Yeah,
make a bunch of money and just be like famous in
that area. Yeah, that's crazy. And that's really establishing the characters and then like reusing that storyline somewhere else.
Yeah. Oh no, exactly. You can go back to like you can find that old like studio wrestling footage like of whatever territory it was in, and it's like you can see like Roddy Piper doing the same heel promo here, like in Oregon, and then here, and then here. Shit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like just working different crowds the same way.
Yeah,
like, pretty amazing.
No, that is cool. I wish we could we do that with stand up. We just tell the same jokes everywhere.
I mean, dude, like I liked wrestling before I got into stand up, but it's like I think my love for it doing stand-up has been like accelerated because I think there are a lot of parallels, especially at like the indie level, to the way comedians travel around and just it's networking. You know what I mean? Like it's all live. You know what I mean? It's all working a crowd. Yeah.
So and then it went from regional, and then kind of what was the next step from there? I guess probably like that's when Andre the Giant was. So like at some point, movies had to have some kind of crossover, like overlap, right?
Well,
or like big blockbuster type of wrestler. I don't know. I'll let you.
No, the thing is, you're not wrong at all.
Okay.
Because basically, what happened is, and here's where it starts to get messy, and like it's a business. It starts to get gross. You know what I mean? Vince McMahon Senior. And we're talking American wrestling. I don't know the fucking Japanese and Mexican like history really, but
sure.
Vince McMahon Sr. Sold the WWWF to his son.
Oh, he sold it to his son?
Yeah, he wouldn't give it to him. He sold it to him because they're just all just piece of shit businessmen. So yeah, Vince McMahon Jr. buys the WWF from his dad.
Okay.
And he wanted to make it, he was like, this has potential to be big on national television.
Yeah.
So he was the guy who wanted to make it national.
Right.
His dad was against that. His dad an old territory guy, never wanted that. But what Vince McMahon does is he, at the time, we're talking maybe late 70s, early 80s at this point.
Yeah.
He just go. He takes the money that he has with the new purchase of the WWF, and he goes around to all the territories and he poaches the big stars all across the country.
Wow.
So he gets Hulk Hogan, he gets Andre,
shit.
he gets Roddy Piper, he gets Macho Man, and he just fucking takes them, like, and then like just makes them national television, and it's like,
wow.
yeah.
So he had enough money to not only poach these players, but also buy the WWE.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
I don't know where the money comes from. Like, I also don't know exactly how quick all this happened.
Yeah.
But, like, I remember the Hulk Hogan one in particular being like, Hulk Hogan is one of the biggest draws in wrestling ever,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
And he was, like, lined up to do this. Like, one of the big territory companies was AWA.
Okay.
And he was lined up to do one of their big shows, and he just didn't show.
Wow. Just
And
because.
they called him and they were like, what's up? And he was like, oh, I'm going to New York. I signed a contract with Vince McMahon.
Oh shit.
And just like he just didn't show up to like one of their big shows.
Yeah.
And it's like it like fucked them. Like they went out of business. You know what I mean? Like
Wow.
yeah.
Damn.
It's ruthless
It
business.
is a
you know what I mean?
ruthless business.
He went national and he fucking
Does Vince McMahon, like, does he also involve himself in the story and like in the wrestling arena at all, or is he kind of just like a background character?
Oh, that's a really good question.
Yeah.
So I guess we can flash forward. So
Okay.
wrestling goes national, WWF very popular.
Right.
To your point to make it a big property, they needed like Hollywood, they needed television exposure.
Yeah.
You're exactly right about that. Like Vince McMahon is the one who comes in, he puts it on national television, and he's going after like WrestleMania 1 has Cyndi Lauper. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
has MTV coverage. Like
Yeah.
he's the one going after like we need mainstream exposure. We can't just be fucking
We're not underground anymore. If we want to make some actual money, we got to be in the face of America.
yeah, WWE's like branding is like, especially nowadays, it's like sports entertainment. It's not wrestling. Like they're obsessed with like the casual viewer.
Yeah.
Which is one way to go about it. I'm not even knocking it.
Right.
It's
well,
just
of
like
course. Yeah, you got to get your bag.
there's basically two audiences you can try to go after. You can try to go after hardcore wrestling nerds, or you can try to go after everyone in America or everyone in the world. You know what I mean? So WWE is very obsessed with making it an entertainment property.
Okay.
So, and they successfully do it. 80s all the way to like, I don't know, I think it was 94 when this happened. I might be wrong about that. I'm so scared of wrestling fans. Hey, buddy, that was wrong. It's like, all right.
Yeah, but apparently you should be, dude. They'll come in and they'll kiss your girlfriend, dude. They will kiss your girlfriend.
I'd like to see him try. Promo right now. I'm getting fired the fuck up.
Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, 80s there was like that big kind of TV boom that they had capitalized. Is that when Vince McMahon purchased all of those characters, or?
Yeah, so like
Okay.
like throughout the 80s is like that's when it's like he's already like brought in Hulk Hogan.
Okay.
He's already brought in
And
the
then
big
they
stars.
get into the 90s, the Attitude Era is what I heard. And that's
Right.
where those scandals, and it kind of became a grungy, like, they almost use MTV to kind of like capitalize on that group of people, the people who were drawn to like skating, you know, like emo culture, all that sort of stuff as well.
100%. But
Yeah.
I mean, there's a stroke of brilliance.
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 Not right here, right now, but there was a stroke
Oh
of
my
of
God.
brilliance. Yeah, what are we drinking?
I haven't even had a whole Miller High Life.
Yeah, no, it's okay. It's a lot of acid in that.
Stroke of brilliance.
Yeah, a lot of acid in that.
It's laced. That's all right.
It's fully laced.
Oh man, I mean, nothing's better than watching wrestling get incredibly high. I will say.
True,
But
but
it just feels like the stakes.
the
Anyway,
stakes are
yeah.
so much higher. But
I'm
the stroke
ADD as
of
fuck.
brilliance. No, I'm curious as to what the stroke of brilliance was.
Well, so you asked the question like, did Vince ever get involved in the storyline? So not until he needed to, is what I'll say. Because it's like he goes through the 80s and it's like he's on screen, but like they had like a fake president of the WWF back then, like Jack Tully or something. Vince was never on screen as the boss. Vince did some commentary.
Yeah.
He owned it the whole time, but he did some commentary, like presented people in the ring.
Okay.
Never was on screen as the boss.
Right.
But they also, other than, smaller companies, were unopposed on national television. They were running a monopoly, you
Right.
know?
Yeah.
So in the early 90s, I think it was 94, this company called WCW, World Championship Wrestling.
Woman Crush Wednesday.
Yeah, Woman Crush Wednesday. That's right. They got sold to Ted Turner.
Okay.
Ted Turner,
Yeah.
TNT.
TNT.
So all of a sudden, there's another wrestling company with a national television deal.
Oh, wow.
So 90s is probably when wrestling was most popular because you're still right there where it's like the internet's not insane, so people sort of think it's real. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then now there's this other company, which means they're both competing for everyone's views.
Yeah, and trying to really develop a lot more, develop more innovative ways of attracting the audience.
Yeah. So it's like late 90s, like WWF is starting to get like kind of boring. A lot of people are saying like it's the same product that they've been just giving out.
Yeah.
WCW hires Hulk Hogan. He jumped ship to like the other company.
Oh, he did it again.
He did it again.
Damn, Hulk Hogan.
Hulk is known for
the
this.
bag, dude. Good for him, though. You know what I mean?
But what WCW is, they bring him in and they turn Hulk Hogan heel.
Okay.
WWE.
What does that mean?
So the basically in every wrestling storyline, you're gonna have a heel and a face. Heel's the bad guy. Face is the good guy.
Oh shit. Okay.
Hogan for over a decade before WWF, but for over a decade with WWF was bringing in millions of dollars as like the top good guy.
Really?
He was the face. WWF never would have ever thought in a million years to make him a bad guy.
Wow.
He jumped ship and like cuts this promo. I never cared about the kids. I don't give a shit. I'm only here to make money. I'm only here to go Hollywood. And it's like,
yeah.
oh my God.
Yeah.
So for a while, it was like a year and some change. WCW was kicking WWF's ass. Like it kind of looked like they were gonna like take him out.
Yeah.
And that's what caused that's what caused the Attitude Era. They were like, we need to make changes. We need to make our product like edgier.
Right.
And it's also what caused Vince McMahon to be an on-screen character. It's what made them acknowledge like he's the boss.
Yeah.
What everyone hates their boss, right?
Yeah.
So it's like he's the piece of shit boss.
Yeah. So he's a
Stone
heel
Cold Steve
technically,
Austin
but
is the fucking redneck drinking beer, fucking flipping off his boss, beating up his boss. You know what I mean?
Shit.
Like,
damn, that's so. Yeah. So Vince, he's the heel, he's the bad guy, but he's like the bad guy that owns the entire thing.
yeah.
Damn.
Yeah.
And so Stone Cold Steve Austin was the good guy. He was the face.
Yeah, it's like they have like a thing where it's like they call it like a tweener, someone who's like in between. But it's like I would say it's like kind of one of the first like eras where they're introducing like anti-heroes to wrestling. Like Stone Cold Steve Austin was not really a good guy.
Yeah.
But he's fighting a corrupt boss, and he's like he has just a fuck you attitude, and like everyone loved him. You know what I mean? Like it's like, dude, yeah, like he is the good guy, but he's not really a good guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like his entire attitude is fuck you. Like he's not like he doesn't have the attitude of Hulk Hogan or anything. You know what I mean? Like
Okay, so WCF or WCW becomes almost bigger, and then that's when Vince McMahon kind of steps up a little bit, steps his game up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So now are those two, at that point in time in cahoots to, still kind of competing against each other? Like, and I don't know, what was like the biggest thing during that era between the two of them?
Well, I mean, for the people who like watched it back in the day, and like you hear like wrestlers do interviews, like they say that like the wrestling war was very real. Like they was very like, we're gonna beat you in ratings, we're gonna beat you in ratings. You know what I mean? Like
yeah, that's what I'm
wrestlers
thinking.
jumping ship all the time,
right?
Like going back and forth between the companies. Yeah, I mean, WCW didn't beat WWF for like very long. It was like a year and some change.
Okay. At a moment,
but what you run into is like the problem with it ended up being like Hulk Hogan and like all of his friends basically had booking power too, so they just never booked themselves to lose, and people lost interest. You know what I mean? Yeah, people lost interest, and then because Ted Turner owned it, it wasn't owned by a guy who gave a fuck about wrestling. He just sold it. Eventually, you know what I mean? He's like, all right, and he sold it to Vince McMahon.
Really? So so now it's kind of back to the centralized. There's not really. They still have a monopoly over it as of right now.
So like wrestling's in an interesting place now.
Okay, so let's maybe not jump too far.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
like I don't know how deep we are into this.
Yeah,
you know what
true.
I mean?
Well, yeah, we're kind of scattered all. Yeah. Well, because there's also the video game era. I think. I guess it was always big, but for me growing up, like early 2000s, we had the video game, but I didn't know anybody that was super into wrestling. You know what I mean? I think there was, and wasn't there like a South Park episode where they're like wrestling in their backyard?
Yeah.
And it wasn't a big thing, but it was just kind of funny because they were like nerding out about it. You know? Yeah. So I think it just goes through phases like that, and I always think it's interesting how how they survive during like the lower quality periods. It's the same way with like and It's Always Sunny. They hire like he was a well-known wrestler that he's trying to make money, and they put on their own wrestling show. You know what I mean?
I mentioned Roddy Piper a few times. I know the Always Sunny. That's Roddy Piper.
That's Roddy Piper.
Yeah.
Oh, so he was a big.
Oh
actor.
yeah. He was like. I was talking about heels. Like in the Hulk Hogan era, he was probably the biggest heel of like that era. Like yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I mean, obviously they made it to now. You know what I mean? But like, during the early 2000s era, that must have been kind of tricky to navigate. You know, I really don't have too much about the 2000s era actually.
Well, it's weird. So it's like you had texted me earlier, and it's like. Most people who aren't into wrestling do think WWE.
Right.
And I was saying, well, we can talk about the world of wrestling. Because, like, I guess we can just move into the state of wrestling, like, early thousands, like, now.
Okay. Yeah.
It's definitely, like, WCW went away. And it's definitely, like... It's more popular than it's been in a long time, but it's more of a niche product than it's ever been, if that makes sense. So... I say the world of wrestling. I guess it is a tangent. I'm trying to figure out exactly what angle to tackle from.
Yeah, because it is big. And the angle that you take is going to say a lot about, how you see it.
Yeah, exactly. I'm just like, I don't know. WWE, I very much feel like is not for me, but I'm not trying to say it's like bad wrestling. So like. They're focused more on the entertainment. They're focused on all that other stuff. I feel like wrestling is in a weird place because it's more niche than it's ever been, but it has hyper fans. The internet has changed wrestling a lot. So WWE, after the death of WCW, like basically got to run a monopoly for a while.
Yeah.
And because there's a whole world of wrestling out there. And they don't want to acknowledge any of it. Like their entire, if you watch their documentaries and you watch like what they say, all of their history is WWE history.
Right.
Like they don't acknowledge that any of the territories really existed. You know what I mean? Like any of that stuff.
Huh.
But
wow, that's crazy.
I say wrestling fan, like it's more niche. I think the internet has opened the world up to. It's exposed the business, so like everyone knows it's fake.
You know
what I mean? Like everyone. So that's made it a more interesting side of, like, a big part of being a wrestling fan now is like listening to podcasts and like listening to like how people put together matches and like the behind the scenes shit. It's a lot of like dirt sheets and like backstage rumors and shit.
Really?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But also a big part is like for I think a long time, especially like WCW was there. It was cool. It was an alternative to WWE. It went away.
WWE sounds like a heel in this situation.
They're very much, in my opinion, you can look and they're the heel in a lot of the situations. I think it's just ruthless business.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think the internet has like made like fans like more like nerdy for it because it's like you have to like be into the podcast and shit. But also I think it's opened a lot of people's eyes to the world of wrestling. There's good shit happening in Japan. There's good shit happening in Mexico. You know what I mean? And it's like WWE would have you believe that it was all happening in barns before them, and it's like it's not true. Like the territories filled stadiums. You know what I mean? So it's like
it's way bigger than WWE.
Yeah,
and that's what I appreciate. I wouldn't have even known. You know what I mean? To like. Think that big, that broad, and because like the only thing that I think is WWE, so it's good to like be enlightened,
Yeah, but that's what I like about it is the variety. Now, in terms of do they still have a monopoly? It's like yes and no. So right now it's actually on TNT again.
Oh, really?
There is another American promotion called AEW.
Okay.
Which I'm a big fan of. It started like 3 years ago.
Okay.
But are they really WWE's competition? I don't know because like. They've been around for 3 years. WWE's been around for 70 plus, something like that. You know what I mean? So it's like they get like quadruple the amount of viewers and shit.
Yeah.
But the reason I'm so into AEW is what I'm saying.
Okay.
It started because it was like all these indie guys that like worked their way up and like made a deal with a billionaire that wanted to start a company.
Yeah.
And that's my point is like they don't. They do acknowledge the world of wrestling. So like they work with other companies. They like do matches with like Mexican promotions and Japanese promotions, and it's like That's where the meat is, I think.
Really?
Is the it just not AEW, it's just the variety of wrestling that's out there. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? There's lucha, there's Japanese, there's deathmatch shit, like
Really?
whatever you want to see. Yeah, the deathmatch shit is insane. You can go to Atlantic City and see like fucking Passion of the Christ, basically. It's like dudes hitting each other with light tubes and just covered in blood.
Oh my
like,
God. Yeah, that's crazy.
There's comedy wrestling. There's just such a variety.
Oh, so there's different even types of wrestling within pro wrestling.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's like
shit.
genres, and it's like, you know, like the whole world of wrestling. It's like I think you can't like ignore that history because it's like it's all interesting shit. You know what I mean? And it's
Yeah.
like there are huge stars that never step foot in WWE, and it's like that matters. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like
Yeah.
they were huge stars who drew huge money. It just might have happened in Japan. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah, that's crazy. I can't even. Now there's the genres, the comedy genres, and everything, and there's still like, of course, WWE dominates the the television kind of mainstream
For
pro
sure.
wrestling culture.
they are the biggest wrestling company in the world for sure.
Wow, but
The
it's
second biggest one is in Japan. It's
Is in
New
Japan.
Japan Pro Wrestling. Yeah,
New Japan, and do you watch that as well?
here and there.
Here and there.
Yeah, like they just had their big show, Wrestle Kingdom.
Okay.
It started at like 3 a.m. in America. I watched some of it. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah.
Well, so is your favorite is AEW currently?
yeah, I would say AEW is my favorite currently.
Okay.
Because it's also there's a level of like just with television or whatever, like how they present it. AEW is they do a good job of like, in my opinion, marrying like the indie like crazy style with like how American wrestling television is presented. You know
Well,
what I mean?
and that's important to reach those audiences
Yeah.
because I mean it's just similar with like movies, like movie culture is like if you want something to be big, so like like Parasite, it's a movie with subtitles. It comes out of Korea, I believe, or something like that.
Oh, I loved Parasite.
Yeah, Parasite's a great film, but it had to think of all the barriers that it had to surpass to reach an American audience,
Right.
and get nominated for Oscars and really like become something that got acknowledged
Yeah.
as as a huge feat in the
100%.
movie industry. So I can't imagine like overcoming WWE
Yeah.
as something that is acknowledged as, like you said, like even more so meat than
Yeah.
WWE is.
Oh, I mean, and I just remember like because it was indie dudes who like got a deal with like a billionaire to like start AEW, right? I remember like kind of starting to be like a lapsed WWE fan, like 2015, 2016, and the internet started to be good, so I started to check out indie wrestling. I started to check out what else was out there, and it's like, this shit is dope. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, this shit is really good, and it's like
what makes it so different for you again? I mean, is it playing more on like the nerdy, industry stuff, or
there's certainly a level of that. Like definitely like a lot of it can be catered towards like wrestling nerds in particular. But I wouldn't say that's the reason. The biggest reason I would say is WWE, them being like a mega corporation and shit. They don't give much creative freedom to their wrestlers.
okay?
They do for like their big stars, like fucking John Cena, Stone Cold. Those guys can do whatever the fuck they want.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But indie wrestling and like wrestling all over the it stood out to me as so much more interesting because it is like guys like they say getting yourself over. You know what I mean?
What does that mean?
Getting over means the crowd is into you.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether you're trying to be a mega heel and like you're getting boos or like you're trying to be like getting over is like it's not necessarily easy to get people to believe what you're doing. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, especially knowing that what we know now, that like it's fake, and how stale those storylines were getting back in the 90s is like, how can you make it fresh? How can you make people really invested in you as a heel or a face?
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. And it's it's all psychology and shit. But
Yeah.
I would say that's like, so WWE like they love like bringing guys in and like just giving them like a name, and they give people like actual scripts, like you have to memorize like word for word like scripts, and it's like that to me just like does not seem like the way to do it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you book it, you tell them like what scenarios they're in, but it's like let the professional that got to a professional level do their thing. You know what I mean? Like, let them fucking approach the promo the way they want to approach the promo. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. So what are some characters that you've seen do that within AEW or other indie, like non-WWE characters? Like, I don't know. I'm curious as like what interests you, like a specific example of that.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. So, I mean, like, I don't want to sound like too much of an AEW mark.
Yeah, right.
but I'm saying, like, there's examples of people who, like, jumped from WWE and then, like, went to AEW and they were able to. But there's also examples of, like, people who, like, never got, like, any big opportunities in a bigger company and they just went around the world to indie promotions and, like, just with the internet now, the internet's so big, like you can just have a bunch of viral videos of like, oh, look how AJ Styles reinvented himself. Like, holy fuck. Like, really? He's like dope as fuck now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, just like the internet just gives people the opportunities to like get traction without a corporation. You know what I mean? They don't need them, really.
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, talking about like huge, somebody pointed this out to me too, and this is kind of before wrestling really came into my sphere of knowledge, which it still is not. But it was like everybody hated Logan Paul. You know what I mean? Like just as an internet person, he was just like a douchey YouTuber guy, and has now built himself into this huge like heel of like an ultimate villain that people just want to see get beat the fuck up. You know what I mean?
Dude, yeah, he's an interesting one because like he's having the big matches in WWE and like I don't really watch WWE's like weekly television or pay-per-views consistently, but I still see it all over Twitter and it's like, dude, I've gone back and watched some of his matches and he's like good. It's like kind of incredible. Really? Like so many people go up through indies like for fucking 10, 15 years and are like pretty solid. It's like in the course of like a couple years, he's gotten like really good. It's like it's kind of insane. So.
Yeah, it's like, oh, everybody already hates this guy. Let's make him hate him even more.
Yeah. But I'm saying his in-ring work too. It's smooth as fuck. Really? It's like so like
damn. So there's
maybe he's just a super athletic guy, but
true.
Yeah, good on him. I don't disagree that he seems like a jerk off in that old YouTube stuff, but like. People grow up, people change.
That's true,
and good on him.
Yeah, it was the industry affected a lot by COVID. Like I gotta imagine you can't be rubbing sweaty, spilling blood with each other during that period of time.
Dude, yeah, COVID. That's a good question too, because COVID was weird for wrestling. Neither of the, the two companies that have weekly television in America are WWE and AEW right now, and. They both basically just did a year of television without crowds.
Yeah, they just kept going.
Yeah, they basically both and like it sounds dumb, but like I mentioned, like wrestling's gotten me through shit. You know what I mean? It's like, dude, during 2020, like. That was the shit. Every week, I'm like, I can't fucking wait to see what happens on Dynamite, dude. Yeah. I can't wait.
That's sick.
Because you have nothing going on. You know what I mean? It's like, even without crowds, it was like, I can't wait.
That's awesome. Yeah, I read somewhere that they were doing like live Zoom things where they'd even like throw in like booing and like crowd cheering noises even though there was no crowd or something like that.
Yeah, it was interesting to see how the different companies tackled it. Like WWE, they had like for a while like the big like shields up like around the ring.
Okay.
And like they were the ones that had the Zoom audience, surrounding the ring.
Yeah.
AEW for like a while, like before they were allowed to let like some fans in.
Yeah.
What they did was they just had like wrestlers that they weren't using in the storylines, like surrounding the ring, like in masks, like cheering and shit. So that rocked too. I was like, hell yeah. But yeah, man, I'm just so into it. Like with COVID, I went to one of their first shows. Like I was like one of 5,000 people in there.
Oh, you went to a show?
Oh yeah, like late 2020.
Okay.
Like at first there was no one at the shows.
Yeah.
But yeah, like when they started like reopening, maybe it was early 2021.
Right.
I'm dumb as fuck. I'm wearing the T-shirt. It was March of 2021.
It was March. Oh shit! It does say it.
It's literally the T-shirt. But I'm saying like that was like I'm so into it, dude. They let like 5,000 people in. Like it's normally would be like I don't know 30,000. You know what I mean? And it was like 5,000 people spread out. It was like all right, yeah, this is cool.
Yeah. So the show's got to be an entire like experience in its own, dude. Like
it's such a reaction reactionary like art form. It's weird without an audience.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
Yeah,
I mean, comparing it
5,000 spread out was enough to like have a decent crowd reaction.
Yeah.
But like just the weekly TV, you go back and watch that shit, and it's like it's pretty fucking weird without an audience.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
it's so like reaction based. Like
Yeah, definitely. And so I mean, in the same way stand up is, like, how much do they play it all off of the crowd? I mean,
oh yeah, all the time. Yeah. Like I would say that like same with stand up. Like a big part of making it is just being able to work a crowd.
yeah,
Like,
involving the crowd in the performance of it
yeah.
all. Yeah.
Oh, it's it's insane. Like comics complain about getting heckled. It's like you shouldn't heckle a comic, dude. People yell shit on fucking TNT. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like,
Oh, really?
This dude is talking on TNT and someone yells some shit. It's like, dude, shut the fuck up. Like, what are you doing? You fucking maniac.
Yeah, Maniac,
Yeah.
dude. He's a wrestler, right? I don't know.
Oh, the maniac, I think, was Roddy Piper's character in.
Oh, yeah,
It's
that's
Always
the one.
But I'm sure there's a fucking wrestler
Oh, yeah. Probably a
who
couple.
called himself the maniac.
Yeah. No, I actually had a buddy that's back in Ohio that started trying to get into professional wrestling.
Yeah.
And then as soon as he got like signed on to like a low budget one, he broke his ribs like
Oh my god.
immediately, dude, within the first week.
Yeah, dude. I mean, it is dangerous as fuck.
Well, yeah, because you gotta. I mean, imagine it's probably similar to like stunt coordination, where yes, you're doing a stunt, but there's still a lot of danger that can go into it if you're not trained properly. On the
Oh,
whole
for
thing.
sure.
Yeah, and that's kind of where like the skill comes in a lot, I would imagine. As well as, of course, there's the performance and like the artistry of it. But there's like a level of skill where you got to be strong. You do have to work out. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like just like technical prowess. Like it's funny because it's presented as two dudes trying to destroy each other, but like they say like the best of the best are like super good at protecting who they're in the ring with.
Oh, really?
Well, yeah, like if something fucking goes south, they can just adjust on the fly and like not kill them. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah. That's. I mean, it's so weird. You want to protect the person
it's
that you're
the opposite of like you've got this guy in your hand and he's fucking covered in blood. You know what I mean? It's like
You're like, you'll be okay.
yeah.
Damn. This is protecting the safety. That's what wrestling's all about. Protecting the safety of your opponent. We've gotten so far from the Colosseums, dude.
Yep, that is right. It's no longer a barbaric Greek.
Yeah. So what's going on in the world of wrestling right now?
In the world of wrestling right now,
Yeah.
well, I mean, we were talking about Vince McMahon. The Vince McMahon shit has gotten crazy.
Oh, really?
They said there was like allegations and shit that they were like investigating. So they like
Wow.
fired him or like he stepped down, which is insane. Like Vince McMahon's been the guy for like 40 plus, you know what I mean? Like forever.
Yeah.
I'd say, I mean, it's his company.
It's his company.
But yeah, they like fired him for it and like got rid of him. And then like like yesterday, he was like, there was rumors that he was like, I want back on the board of directors. Like, he said he might sell the company.
Oh, wow.
Just like literally yesterday, he like got back in. like he's back.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so that's probably the biggest wrestling story of the year.
Happening right now. No, I mean, and again, it's just so wild to me, like, because usually like suits are like suits, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Guys that like control the background, you don't really see, they dabble a lot in the money. This guy wants to be right up front and center.
Oh yeah,
Talk about the ultimate heel. Let's bring Bill Cosby up.
honestly,
to
yeah.
fight.
Like, I guess it depends on who you ask, but I think there's a lot of people that would say Vince is the ultimate heel. Like Vince seems like just a ruthless businessman who like does not give a fuck about anything other than the bottom line. Like, yeah,
That's crazy.
like
yeah.
doesn't care about his performers at all. Really, you know what I mean? It's like
Yeah.
it's all just a fucking his show. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, no, that's crazy.
Wrestling's very carny. You know what I
No.
mean? Like it's very like even at that level, it's like it's still just a fucking carnival. You know what I mean? Like Vince
people
McMahon's a
pulling
fucking like ringmaster.
Yeah, rigged games, dude. People
Yeah.
making bets on rigged games.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so wild to me. And the fact that, and here's the thing again, is the fact that I don't know too much about it, and yet there's still so much within it that goes on with the corporate structure of it, the
Oh, yeah.
industry, the characters, the creativity behind it. You know what I mean? All the stuff that goes into that. It's just like it just amazes me how much is in there, man.
Oh, it's
love it.
fascinating, and there's so much of it. Like
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's so much of it and like so many different types. It's like I feel like most people could get into a little wrestling.
Most people could use a little wrestling in their life.
TBH.
Yeah. It's a simple pleasure, but
Yeah.
But yeah, man, I think that's probably. I think we started with ancient Greece, so
We started with ancient Greece, and like I can't think of anything that I left out. Like I think that's a pretty good like rundown of like here's kind of what's up with wrestling.
Yeah, no, and it's good. Again, there's so much I didn't know, so I appreciate the history, and now I can kind of hop in if I wanted to.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, thanks for having me on, man. I legit, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely. Follow Paige Campbell on Instagram at Uncle Paige. You got any shows or anything else you want to promote here? Oh, Hog Wild. Watch Hog Wild.
That's
I was
right.
on it. A bunch of people are on it. It's a hilarious podcast.
DP Sundays at 6.
DP Sundays at 6.
Yeah. You
Airs
can
live
follow
on
Hog live on YouTube. Yeah, that's what youtube.com/Paige Campbell.
Okay.
Uncle Paige on Instagram.
And Hog Wild on Instagram. That's
The Instagram is Hog Quarters.
Hog Quarters.
Yeah.
Because that's where.
Yeah.
That's where the quarters are.
If you want to know what's up with that, you check into the Hog Quarters.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Send in an email if you want it's articulatewithstevemcj@gmail.com. Always love to hear from the people.
Perfect.
Yeah. But other than that, Paige, I appreciate you coming out, and don't get murdered in a wrestling match.
Of course, I'll try not to. But thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, definitely.